bitch. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
This is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers.
I tried to watch The Fog. Missed.
You told that joke before.
I know. I don't care. I don't even care. I don't care. And I know
it. All right, no, we're back, but we're not back alone. We're back for another episode of our zombie series. And everybody knows what this motherfucking zombie series is. The hitch is the guest picks the movie. And the guest we have today is Will motherfucking Johnson. Will, tell the folks who you are, what you do, and what movie you picked for us to watch today.
Well, I'm William Johnson. I'm the co-host of the Cinephile Hissyfit podcast. That show is co-hosted by another person that manages to be on shows sometimes on this network and others.
Never heard of him.
We're a network.
It's not important.
Never heard of this other person, nor do I care to. Please continue.
No. I'm the sex of the show. I sell the sex. That's what I'm here for. Also, when someone says pick a zombie movie, I decide to pick something that is ambiguous if it's zombies, and if so, only appears for about 35 seconds. So
Tops.
I just
Tops.
I decided to go with the most non-zombie zombie movie you can think of, because that's what I do. I'm a disruptor. I'm counterculturist. I go against the grain.
So many metaphors.
Congratulations for those of you expecting a zombie movie. I did not pick one for you. Figure that one out. But no, I actually
like the Rage Against the Machine.
Tell us the movie. You still haven't told us
the
movie.
Oh, I haven't told the movie yet?
He did, and he was built it up, and he never told it.
Oh, well, I picked Kenneth Branagh's Belfast. And, no, I'm just kidding. No, it's The Fog. John Carpenter's The Fog is what I picked. Sorry, I assume people were listening to the episode would already know what we're going to talk about, but
just
in case.
Well, the way to read the title, but it's all about the showmanship, the prestige, if you will.
Exactly.
The smoke and mirrors. That's what we're all about over here at MDK. We're all about
the fog and mirrors.
This fucking guy. There's something in the fog. There's something wrong with it. It glows. It glows.
But yeah, no, I just I wanted something, because I'm really not like a huge zombie person. I blame Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright for that, because like anything, I don't know how this worked out in Ireland, but what happened is zombies were kind of like a nice little niche, fun little thing over here in the US. Then Shaun of the Dead came out and everyone was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let's make everything a zombie thing ever. Like, I mean, every movie was a zombie thing. They tried the zombie comedies. They redid stuff like Dawn of the Dead. Zombies, rom-zoms, all that kind of stuff. And then Marvel Comics was doing zombies, and everything was zombies. I mean, I know that Shaun of the Dead isn't like an epic cultural landmark, but it did over here. I think people were like, "Oh,
it turned into one."
It did, and I can't believe we're still in it. And to me, it's a limited genre in the first place. I mean, I like it, and I think no. I think that the problem is that you can like, let's take like something like gangster films, right? There seems to be different eras of gangster films. There seems to be different, like, directors have different takes on it. Like, if you get a Francis Ford Coppola versus a Scorsese versus a Japanese Yakuza versus a Chinese Triads, you get so many different variations. And I just think that the zombie itself, when you have someone that just nailed it so perfectly with George A. Romero, it's hard to, he nailed it, with his movies. And he was kind of, at least until Shaun of the Dead and the zombification of everything, I think he was the be all say all of zombies. I mean, in terms of, like, I know that there were some other ones like Return of the Living Dead and things like that, but it just felt like his was the definitive version of like what a zombie film should be,
the modernistic interpretation.
Right. And I think it's always been kind of, everyone's trying to mess with it and play with it and just zombify everything. And I just don't think it has the narrative power Like he already went for with Night of the Living Dead with the racism angle, and with Dawn of the Dead with the consumerism angle. He already was like nailing. It's almost like Star Trek in a way, because he was already nailing like the possibilities of what you could say with that genre. And I usually, when you see something like that, I mean, usually you go for the aesthetics first and then someone digs deep. It's just like the Western now, whereas the Western used to be just kind of a fun time at the movies, and then someone said, let's deconstruct the Western, and now you can't really have a Western without it being deconstructed. Like he started the zombies being deconstructed from the start. So that's kind of hard to continue when someone's already used it to the maximum ability. So I think it's limited. So, and this leads to why I picked The Fog, because a lot of people might argue The Fog is a ghost movie. I argue it's kind of a mixture, because I like
zombie ghosts.
Yes, I think it's zombie ghosts, really, because they kind of have
they're undead. They're physical.
They're physical.
They have
Yes, and they have, and what I like about it is there's a little bit of a twist on it, is that like and Pirates of the Caribbean would later do the same thing, is that they kind of have this fate. It's actually a lot like the dead in Lord of the Rings too. They've almost been like,
of course, they can
only go on until their revenge is complete. And so I don't know, it's kind of a nice mixture. It's a nice, if you want to say they're zombies, which I can see many will argue it's not. I just think it's a nice twist on because zombies in the most case, like I said, when you look at it from a societal perspective, are brain dead consumers. Like they're stuck in the mall and they just want to be at the mall all day. This is kind of like the same thing, but it's motivated by like this, like, you stole my gold and I'm going to get it back, and I cannot be at peace until I get my fucking gold back. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that angle of like this fate. There's still an intelligence behind them. They're not just brain dead. They're actually like they have a purpose, and they have a goal. And they're going to stop at nothing. They're like the Terminators of zombies. They'll stop at nothing to get what they need. Which I think is kind of cool, and they look awesome. I think the design of them is fucking phenomenal.
So, of course, the eyes peering out from the smoke was just really good. But can I push back against you on the kind of ambiguity of zombies? Because we watched a film during the build up to this series, White Zombie, and you realize that the origins was very much so like Barn Zombie, bringing the dead back under your complete control,
the Haitian lore,
and then the Haitian lore, and then you have the kind of what we all knew when we grow up, and we all kind of in our heads, but as the need, and that is like the Dawn of the Dead and what have you. But then you have the rage virus in 28 Days Later, and then there was actually an awful lot of ambiguity inside of the zombie thing. And I think just the zombie thing is just like relentless pursuit of flesh or people, and there's the slow build and there's the fast build, and in The Fog it was kind of I thought I did the slow zombies really well, because they're slow, but they can get inside. Like you can't build a perimeter or a trench. You can't beat them over the head with a bat. So I thought it was cool. But for me, if we're going to accept the 28 Days Later and the Dawn of the Dead, and if you go back to Haitian lore, and there's a few examples of that, I think you have to accept The Fog. I don't think you've gone so far off the reservation that you're just not talking a zombie movie for me.
I think like when you look at the zombie subgenre, like, you know what I mean? What is the one thing people say? The one thing people say that the reason 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later is not technically a zombie movie is because they're not the living dead. Well, The Fog, these are definitely the living dead. If not the living dead, they're the risen dead. You know what I mean? Like, so
they don't breathe, they don't eat. Like they don't pass any of the criteria for living.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so they definitely hit the right fucking benchmarks for me if you want to talk about zombie movies. Like, and this shows, like, to counter Will's point, that there is actually a wide berth for zombies, because like but Noel said there's the Haitian lore, then you have like all the way up to 90 years later Army of the Dead. Like, and in the middle you had all of George Romero, you have like the 28 Weeks and 28 Days Later, you have Shaun
Army of Darkness,
you have The Walking Dead, where you can have this kind of like undead, but it's very realistic instead of like the Zack Snyder interpretation where it's a bit more over the top, especially Army of the Dead, So I think there actually is a lot you can do with this. But I do also agree that it is a saturated subgenre. Of all the subgenres in horror, especially over the past 20 years or so, this has been heavily saturated, heavily so.
Well,
vampires are the only other thing that could be in the conversation for me.
Yeah, to me, the end of the the zombie craze for me was so Disney Channel over here, and I have kids, so you know they were at the perfect age. And actually, my daughters are 5 years apart, and so there was a one Disney Channel original movie musical, right, that came out called Zombies. And it's about high school kids, and you know, like there's a zombie part of town, and then there's the regular people part of town, and they all sing, and the zombie falls in love with the human, and blah blah blah. But I mean, once you're starting to get Disney adaptations of zombies, it's like you've gone too far. Like, I mean, because now it's because now it's like I mean, it was cute. I liked it. I liked the music. Actually, it was very fun. I watched it with my daughters. Now I've watched it too many times because my youngest daughter is getting into it now, and I'm just like, fuck zombies. But yeah,
I bet his daughters just walk in and he's watching it. You know, oh no, you probably want to watch this again.
Zombies.
But yeah, no, it's gotten to the point where it's kind of like, I mean, because I remember my dad, who doesn't follow any pop culture trends, like my daughter walked up and said, "Will you watch Zombies with me?" And my dad's like, "Why the hell are you watching something with zombies?" And I had to tell him, I'm like, "No, it's not zombies really. It's Disney zombies." But I mean, it's gotten to that point where it's, you know, you've got The Walking Dead in its like 900th season on AMC, and then you've got Disney making zombie things, and Marvel making zombie things, and everybody making zombie things. It's like I said, it's oversaturated. It kind of puts me off to it.
You know,
yeah. Well, now there's going to be a third one with what's his name?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
And there's going to be a third series.
There's already a third series called The World Beyond.
Oh, is there? I have no idea. See, I don't even follow up with that stuff. It's become something that it's almost oversaturating pop culture, and I tune out when I get, like, I was aware as a Marvel fan of, you know, the Marvel zombie brand, and you can't escape it. And I thought that, you know, it was kind of fun to see the MCU version of it in the What If series. But I mean, that is pretty specific to me that I would enjoy that. I mean, I would enjoy, you know, Kevin Feige in his underwear. But
baseball hat on.
Yeah, but you know, that's about as far as I can get. I can be like, oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, I have a Falcon and a ginormous Captain America zombie pop over here nearby. But, you know, that's starting to get specialized. But overall, it's like when I see zombies, I kind of roll my eyes and go, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, but
so looking at it for its time, it's 1980. It's a pretty cool time for zombie genre.
But
absolutely.
Yeah. Even with the zombie aspects of this movie aside, we put that to one side. Let's look at it as a suspense thriller, something that John Carpenter does better than almost anybody, right? So let's look at how it was shot. We already spoke a little bit about the design of the dead that was done by, I think, Rob Bottin, who actually played Blake. I seen it in the credits, the guy who did the special effects for the thing. But like, what did you think of the way this is shot? Like, one thing I seen in a meme before, the nighttime in the 80s just hits different. Those blues and blacks, it's just shot beautifully. What do you think of the way it was shot, Will, and then Noel, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, Carpenter is you know, a widescreen master. I mean, he's people sometimes, you know, say he's too slow, and that's fine with me. I don't mind that, because to me, he's one of the few directors that can establish a mood. It's really easy to make something jump scary, and it's easy to manipulate the senses with high intense music and jump scares and things that manipulate you into being scared. But like, Carpenter is actually one of the most brilliant mood artists out there. And here's a comparison for films in his future. He did a really fun movie called Ghost of Mars towards the end of his directing career.
Yeah.
But if you notice when you watch that movie, when you watch that movie, you'll notice that the studio was like, okay, we can't do these long takes and these long shots, and there's actually like transitions while people are talking, because like Ice Cube and Natasha Henstridge will be talking across the room at each other, in a typical kind of John Carpenter shot setup. And then as they're talking, it'll literally do like a swipe, and then suddenly they're standing next to each other because people's attention spans are no longer acceptable. Like, people no longer want to see long shots and mood, and even people talking across a room. Like, it has to be more action packed, and that shows you the power that he had in 1980 versus what a more modern audience, I would say, in the late 90s or 2000s when he did Ghosts of Mars. How
2 years after Halloween as well, like, only.
Yeah, so it's just I can understand, like, if you fire this up at 1 a.m. On a Friday after you've been drinking a little bit, you might fall asleep. But to me, it's a mood piece, and Carpenter's one of the best mood directors out there. So it looks beautiful. I mean, first of all, just where they shot is amazing, and like you said, the night hits different. The special effects. I mean, I think he said, I don't have the exact quote, but I mean, he said that fog is probably the cheapest, but one of the best special effects you can have because it's automatically eerie.
Yeah.
So I just think it's, I mean, just from a filmmaker's perspective, it's just a masterclass of mood and setup and visuals. It's fantastic.
Yeah. How about you, Noel?
I always think when I look at films like this, there was a time when we kind of knew how to make a lot out of a little. And now I feel like we know how to make a little out of a lot.
Yeah. Too high concept at times.
Yeah, too high concept at times. And don't get me wrong, you get an Avatar or something. Why not? Like, why not have a blockbuster and it's fantastic and it's visually amazing, it's 3D and all of that. But this, like kind of what Will kind of said as well, like fog, it lended itself to special effects. It was a smoke machine, or it was dry ice or whatever it was.
Fog machine.
It was just those fog machine. Smoke machine, fog machine, are they the same thing?
One's smoke and the other's fog.
Yeah, that's fair. But he said, but just two eyes piercing out at you. That was it. That was so cool the first time I saw it. Now, I've seen this film a few times over my life, but I haven't seen it in 15, 16 years or something. And like Will said, it was probably on like late at night, and I sat and watched it and chatted to somebody, that kind of way. But I just remember thinking, yeah, it's just cool. It's a church. It's it's the last festival. It's the last place where they're going to try and that they're on the run. Because
did you watch it back for this episode?
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. But it was the first time in so long that I forgot how actually aesthetically pleasing and stuff that this film actually was. The knocks at the door. That was very, very, very simple stuff. An elderly Janet Leigh was kind of cool to see as well, which I'd forgotten. But I remember just thinking, I didn't need all the bells and whistles. It is a slow burn, but it's a very uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
And when I watched this, I remember the first time I seen this, it actually did freak me out a bit because there was actually some fog, and I'm like 18 or something, going like, get over yourself. There's nothing in the fog. But my brain just went, there's something in the fog. They did it a lot with a little, so aesthetically, I loved it. I just did. Yeah. Vin, your own question?
About the fog, when you watch it, like anytime there is actually really heavy fog, I either watch the fog or the mist. I can't help myself. But I'm a massive fan of John Carpenter, and this is Pete Carpenter in a lot of ways. In the space of 5 years, he did Halloween, he did The Fog, he did Halloween 2, he did The Thing, and I think he did Christine in the space of like 5 or 6 year period or something.
This is the height of his powers.
Yeah, it's just, and then this is like the way he sets the tone, like Will was saying, like one thing I noticed, like I rewatched it again today, and I only watched it like about a week ago, and I paid a bit more close attention to, and just how he draws out the mood, like Will was saying at the start of the movie, like the names are still coming up about 5 or 10 minutes, it feels like, going into the movie, because he has the story, he sets the tone, like, here's your little bit of exposition, build your lore, and then we're going to slowly introduce you to the current state of affairs, the world, the house San Antonio, or whatever I think it's San Antonio, isn't it, the name of the place? And that's what I loved about it, just this kind of slow build. It just unsettles you with the old man's story, and then like it's then talks about his centenary, and then it just kind of builds up to the first part where it's like 12 o'clock to 1, that kind of 1 hour period where we first see the fog, where it interacts with the seagrass and it comes ashore and all this kind of thing, where we still
moving against the wind.
Yeah.
What kind of fog moves against the wind?
Yeah, it's fucking glowing at that stage. I would like, that'd be the first thing I would like. I'm pretty sure there might be some nuclear fallout going on over here.
I'm so stupid though. I'd be kind of like, well, I would be the guy that doesn't voice up because this is probably like something that everyone else knows about. Like some completely natural phenomenon.
Glow fog.
Yeah. Well, it's just glow fog, which is nobody's overreacting, which is fine, which is a thing.
A common occurrence. I'm reading.
A common occurrence of Ireland. Yeah.
Well, just to give you to support Vinny's claim here, I mean, look at this murderer's row of films. I'm going to read these to you. This is the order of theatrical films. He did a couple of TV movies, but 76, Assault on Precinct 13, 78, Halloween,
Big one.
80, The Fog, 81, Escape from New York, and 82, The Thing. I mean, that's just like, and then 83, Christine. It's like, dang, like what? Yeah, what a hell of a streak right there. I mean, that's
and it's
amazing.
Just quality, not just because anybody can make movies. Making movies is not the thing that's impressive, certainly. But they were some absolute classics.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Carpenter too, is when he did Christine, he was essentially a director for hire. Like it wasn't his film. He made it his own. That's how talented he is.
Yeah, it wasn't his baby.
That wasn't his baby, and so the fact that he could make something memorable. I mean, great directors are going to do that, but a lot of the times when you've got somebody who's kind of like this collaborator, like writer, director, editor, cinematographer, composer, whatever, and then he just needs money, and they say, here, let's do Stephen King. That's hot right now, and then he kind of makes it his own. Is pretty cool. I mean, I think that shows the talent. And once again, he'll always kind of be. I think unlike Wes Craven, who I love also, Wes Craven was constantly frustrated with being pigeonholed as a horror person. I think Carpenter's just like, fuck it, I'm fine with it. I'm going to make what I want to make, and
it was good at it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Craven started getting more like cynical as he got. Oh, I mean, if you look at the difference between even just the Scream movies, if you look at the difference between Scream 1 and Scream 4, by Scream 4, you can tell how bitter and angry he is, and like the violence is more extreme and more.
Yeah,
you can kind of see his bitterness at being stuck in horror, whereas Carpenter's always kind of like, even in his failures. I mean, like I said, I love Ghost of Mars. I think Ghost of Mars is hilarious. I think it's fun.
Ghost of Mars is funny. That's the thing about Ghost of Mars.
Yeah. And when people were like, well, your film kind of sucks, why would you make this? He's like, I made you a film called Ghosts of Mars.
Exactly. What do you expect?
Chill out. Like you know what I mean? Like, so I just
the place that we've never proved there was any life.
Like, as long as there's ghosts on Mars in that movie, I'm sold. He's getting exactly what he said he was going to give me, right?
Yeah, it makes somebody kind of going, this Sharknado film, I'm not, it's a bit, I kind of go, listen
to Sharknado-ish.
Say to yourself, but slowly. And I jump on a point you made. Sorry, Will, I'm talking over you. But I actually, I'm trying to think of a way of phrasing the question, but I just agree with you. So when I was thinking of somebody who puts their own spin on it, and I love when a director does that, but you still have to be a top-class director to make a great film. Like, we can all agree Rob Zombie puts Rob Zombie stamps on films. He makes the film that Rob Zombie wants to see.
And he made two okay movies.
And he made two okay-ish movies. And
wait, are you talking about the Halloween?
No, House of a Thousand Corpses.
Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects.
Because I'm a huge zombie fan. I love all his movies, except for
Salem's Witches or whatever that one.
Yeah, so this is the only zombie you do like, the worst kind.
I don't like Lords of Salem, but I love everything else that he does. So you won't get agreement for me on that one. I think
Halloween 2 is a fucking dumpster fire.
No, I think it's one of the best Halloween movies ever made. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. We're talking about a director putting his own.
This is what I love about movies. This is what I love about movies.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think Hollywood.
Yeah, no, of course, no. Like
that's what I love about movies. Yeah, because me and Will would probably be like, we'd like 90% of similar movies,
and then what you disagree on.
It's so funny.
So I didn't mean to sidetrack
your garbage opinions. No, but I just say you still. You still have to be a really good director to make a film for yourself and still have it be an absolutely great film for the masses. Because I don't know anybody who I consider a horror cinephile. Shout out to the Cinephile podcast, but who isn't just a huge fan of at least 2 to 3 of those horror films that you just named, like The Thing, The Fog, Assault on Precinct 13. Just absolutely.
Yeah. Jordan Peele is kind of becoming that next. Shut up! He's becoming. He's
Jesus, been just one time.
No. Okay, no, but he's becoming that populist horror, and Ari Aster probably to a little extent. But I mean, Get Out and Us were huge box office successes. Get Out won an Oscar. My mom, rest in peace, saw both of those movies. I mean, like, it goes beyond just the fandom. So, and I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I don't really like horror, but I love The Thing, because there's just a craftsmanship and a universality to it that speaks to multiple people. That's why I'm saying I think Jordan Peele is kind of the next horror, like, populist, if you want to say, he's reaching beyond the horror genre a little bit.
Like M. Night Shyamalan looked like he might have been for a while.
Yeah, exactly. No, M. Night Shyamalan was definitely one of those. You could debate Ari Aster. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of either of his films, but I mean, they're fine. I don't hate them.
They get people talking. It's one thing about
they get people talking, and they have that art house credibility.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be like populist entertainment, but
Summer looked beautiful.
Oh yeah, it looked great. Yeah, it's a fine movie. It's fine. It's a fine movie. I don't think
it's fine. It's fine. Okay, I said it's fine. It's fine. Okay.
That's kind of the way somebody, like, your ex-wife has gone missing and she hasn't been seen in 40 hours, and police ask you how your relationship with her was. You kind of,
it was fine. It's fine.
That's the way. And you're definitely the person who did it.
Yeah. Well, my favorite. I follow this Twitter account called like Letterboxd Reviews with Threatening Auras, I think it's called. So they find like the strangest. And one of them was like, imagine being left out of your family's suicide. Like, that was my favorite. Florence Pugh is so annoying that her family's like, let's just all kill ourselves and not invite her. That's what I think is brilliant.
Just in case there's an afterlife. She's like, just in case. I don't want to meet her at the pearly gates.
Or if we have to meet her there, we need to prepare.
Yeah, well, let's get in there beforehand and we can start telling people how horrible she is.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to win over a lot of people with that opinion. But no, I thought that was a hilarious review of Hereditary. But anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to steer away from the discussion of The Fog. But
there's something in the fog. One thing I loved about this though is the lore. Like, like I've said before, I'm a big lore dude, and I love when they really establish a good fucking curse. You know what I mean? Like, I love the part when is Boyd Holbrook's father is actually is that Boyd Holbrook? No, what's his father's name?
Hal Holbrook.
Hal Holbrook.
Hal Holbrook.
Is that Boyd's father? Is it Boyd from?
I have no idea.
But yeah, Hal Holbrook, when he's reading the journal he found in the wall of the church, and he's setting up the whole backstory of the curse and the story of what's it called, the Elizabeth Dane, was that the name of the ship? Or some shit like this. And I love that scene where, and it's another thing Carpenter does well, he's building using only words and shit, but like he really sets the tone in that where he keeps you on edge, because now what's coming back, what the association is with the fog. And we know that at this stage that the kid found the bit of driftwood down by the rocks that's in the story where the ship ran aground, before they stole the gold. So like one thing I really liked about this was the lore and the mythology.
And it's a book. Like he's reading from a book. It's not much different from a book.
It's a handwritten
journal. It's not. They're not like. It's not like what. Yeah, but it's not. When they read it and it kind of like, and then you get to see it all play out. It doesn't. It's actually him reading a book, which is great. Like you said, when you say it was with words, it's literally just with words. Yeah, it's no different than an audio book for that very small scene, and it completely works.
Yeah. What do you think the mythology and the curse around the leper colony was?
Oh, I mean, that's partially why I picked it, because, like I said, I like this idea of like ghosts or zombies or whatever you want to call them being like
zombies
chained down to, like, they can't be like
zombies
free. They can't. Yeah, they can't be. Yeah, they can't be released from their prison. Like it's like purgatory. You know, until their mission is complete. And I like the idea that, you know, this has been going on for, I guess, at least 100 years or something.
A century, I think. It was exactly a century at that time.
Yeah. So it was their centenary there. That's what they were celebrating.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's right. So I think like that idea of like this tortured fate is just intriguing to me. I like that. So, you know, some of the lore, I mean, obviously is really cool. I think it there's kind of this small town stuff that, you know, if you're born like I was in the suburbs or the city, you know, there's already kind of not a mysticism, but kind of a fairy tale quality to, like, you know, the town where everybody knows who everybody is. And, you know, you got the cool lighthouse at the top where the super hot DJ is broadcasting. And there's already kind of like a cool, like, element to that story. And then when you add this mythology and stuff like that, it just makes it kind of unique and different. And you know, it's a template of horror to have that kind of small town, as Stephen King's been milking off of that for 50 years, you know, that small town.
Often the smallest towns have the biggest secrets. It's not the kind of
right. Exactly. So I kind of like that. I don't think this would work like, you know, every now and then that concept, like, you know, let's take something like Predator, right? Like Predator 1 is like in the isolation of the jungle, and then Predator 2 does work even though they transport it to the city, because it's kind of like its own concrete jungle kind of thing. It's different. But, you know, like there's a reason why like they can't really set like alien films on Earth. It just doesn't have the same you have to have like a sense of
separation
difference. Like you have
it seems zany. It's just like, oh, now they're running around LA, you know.
It's like
zany.
It's like the thing. The thing's the perfect example of doing it on Earth correctly. You put it in the North Pole or somewhere.
Right. So it's a template of what Carpenter's doing here with The Fog. I mean, that's why Halloween is one of my top 5 favorite films, is because he really struck at, and this is something that the X-Files would do really good at later, is they really struck at the fact that the evil can be in quote unquote the safest place, which is the suburbs, you know, of a random neighborhood where you just go trick-or-treating every night and everybody says hi. But you know, every house is kind of anonymous, you know, and like I kind of like I said, the X-Files would do that later, where like they kind of had this like suburban threat to them, like, you know, your monsters in your air conditioning duct, you know, like it was kind of a different take. And I think that's why he's so brilliant, is he captures those, you know, it's not just something that is running around the city, or, you know, it would be a whole different thing. I think another Fog adjacent movie, The Mist, Frank Darabont, is the same thing, because it that wouldn't be like a zombie film, but what I like about it is it condenses the human experience to one grocery store, you know, and it makes you think. It goes, this is happening all over the state or even all over the country, but can you imagine like the power struggles that are going on everywhere around the world? But you don't need to see it to feel that effect, because you're already seeing like literally like a country rise,
a microcosm of
exactly. So you have to get those things across, you have to make these things like small in scope. And that's the key, I think, to a lot of these horror things is, and this is what The Fog nails it, because it's this small kind of, you know, idealistic fairy tale town where this is happening, and of course it's got some kind of curse attached to it, and it's just brilliant. I can't speak enough about how well constructed the film is.
Before we get out of here, I'm just going to ask one simple question, a short one. 42-year-old film, does it still hold up? Yes, yay or nay? For me, yay, all day. It's a really well-structured film. It works in the 80s before the kind of information age where it was very hard for everyone to find out from everyone else what's going on. We've got that radio station at the center of the story. So yeah, Lighthouse. I just think this film holds the Lighthouse. I think this film really holds up as an isolationist horror, and I'd recommend anyone to watch it 42, 52, 102 years later, Vinny.
The best thing about the horror kind of masters is that no matter the setting, they can create this feeling of confinement or isolation, and that's what John Carpenter does. He cuts this town off away from the rest of civilization. This is one event happening to this small town, and in one night, and it just creates this whole thing where it's inescapable. And it's something like obviously the thing, is that too taken to the extreme because it really is inescapable. But even when it's not, in something like even Christine, that car felt inescapable. Whatever the event is or whatever's occurring, the horror masters, they create this sense of isolation where the victims of the event are totally cut away from any kind of sort of safety. He did that brilliantly in Halloween. It's it all took place in this one little suburbs, but it's he cut them away from the rest of civilization. No matter how far they got, they could never get far away from Michael Myers, that kind of thing. Yep. And that's what I love about it. It's just he'll go, okay, I'm slicing this town away from everything. This one event is going to consume everything, and then it's all about surviving that one event. And he does it massively in The Fog, because it's this one town, it's one curse, one story, one night, and it's inescapable for that 12-hour period or 6-hour period or however long it was. And until those 6 people die and until Blake gets back his gold, they're going to kill everything and anyone in their path. And I just love that kind of shit, that he's really, really good at making everything feel so small, but yet so far away from everything else. How about you, Will?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the stressful thing about Carpenter, is that he went away from that, because his first film, Assault on Precinct, well, not his first film, he did Dark Star in space, but his first major success, Assault on Precinct 13, is the same kind of thing. It's these people stuck in this police house that have to defend it overnight from this unending gang of murderers, and he would do that. And then if you notice, a lot of his films, my second favorite Carpenter film after Halloween is In the Mouth of Madness.
Sam Neill.
That one has somewhat of a you don't really get to the heart of the mystery until you go to a small town in that one. Shit's going down, and they kind of reflect that people are starting to get affected, and there's kind of this mass psychosis with people reading, Sutter Kane. But it really doesn't come to a head until you get to a small town and it gets a little bit more isolated again.
Yeah.
But when you look at those first couple films, Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, and The Thing, he's very isolated. Once you get to Starman, you're going all over the country. Big Trouble in Little China is kind of like an epic fantasy. So even though it's only in one location, it doesn't feel isolated. Prince of Darkness, he does go back to
cool movie.
In a haunted house, so to speak. So that works a little bit. But then, They Live is kind of a citywide, nationwide kind of thing. Memoirs of an Invisible Man, they're all over the place. And then Escape from LA is kind of all over the place. Vampires, Ghosts of Mars, they're on fucking Mars, for God's sake. But Village of the Damned is a pretty, I think, underrated entry.
And Christopher Reeves.
Yeah, it gets back to the heart of what makes these movies successful, like The Fog. Is that it takes place in a kind of idyllic small town. I know it's a remake, but it's got its own Carpenter twist and a great score too. I think people sleep on that John Carpenter score for Village of the Damned.
Yeah,
but it just I think that Starman's a great film, and
with Jeff Bridges,
and They Live is a great film, and but I think he works his best when he's in that little slot when it's okay, there's only 6 people and they're stuck in a room or a small town. That's where he excels the most, because you're dealing with the
a group you can care about, and then
kind of M. Night Shyamalan, like the problems he had, the more expansive his stories got, the more messy they go. If you look at his earlier pieces, like Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, like even Signs in The Village, like you could see the more he expanded, the less the quality was. And like when he started making smaller movies again, that's when he came good again, like The Visit, Split, and then once again he made the same mistake. He got too big, and Glass wasn't as good as the other movies. So sometimes I think it's better to have these visionaries, for lack of a better word, to be reined in somewhat and allow their visions to be kind of contained within a really tight structure, because then their real auteur in them comes out, because they're not like looking for the easy out. They're looking for the smart out, you know what I mean? And I think that was the reason why Carpenter was so good when he told these kind of insulated, kind of isolationist type of stories.
Agreed.
In the same way M. Night Shyamalan, when he made these smaller scale, very personal, character-based stories. But that's why they're more successful, because they focused on their strengths, and they had to think cleverly and not easily, because when the scope is bigger, sometimes you try to go for the easy out instead of trying to think on your feet, you know?
Okay, guys, I'm going to try and wrap that up there.
But we get the fuck out of here.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Got lost in the fog there. Oh,
cool. Let's do this thing. All right, cool. No, we get the fuck out of here.
Okay.
All right, I'm your host, Mr. Green.
I'm your host, John Tilly.
And that was The Fog, and this is Invasion of Polly Snatchers, and that's Will Johnson. Let's get the fuck out of here, motherfuckers. See you next time.
Yeah, motherfuckers.
Yeah, peace. There's something in the fog. It's glowing.
Welcome to Earth. Slap.
Yeah, no, that's solid.
Peace.